welcome to Buzz Live. Thank you, thank you. Or as I'm really trying to make it known internationally, the Tonight Show for Nonprofits. We are broadcasting live tonight from the Alexander Black House in Blacksburg, Virginia, the historic Alexander Black House. Much of our work at Buzz for Good highlights nonprofits in Southwest Virginia, but we are going global to highlight a nonprofit called Elimisha Kakuma. Hang on one second, we got a little audio. Good? Nope. Wait just a second. Waiting for it. Yep, that's fine. We can roll with that. Okay. As I was saying, much of our work at Buzz for Good highlights nonprofits in Southwest Virginia, but we are going global to highlight a nonprofit called Elimisha Kakuma. Now, what does Elimisha mean? And where in the world is Kakuma? And how is it connected to Blacksburg, Virginia? Well, we're going to answer all of these questions thanks to our show. Journeyed from all over the world to be here tonight, and who are among the most inspiring people I have ever met. Yeah, I'm talking about y'all. Okay. Now, making this show possible is an organization that knows a thing or two about being locally grounded, yet globally minded. And that is the mission statement of our sponsor, the Cranwell Family Foundation, which is not only underwriting this show, but also a production of our TV show Buzz that will air this fall on Blue Ridge PBS. The Cranwell Family Foundation is also a supporter of the Alexander Black House, so a nice full circle moment here. And we will hear later today from one of the family members of the Cranwell family, as well as its executive director. So I want to get started here with Elimisha Kakuma with a little bit of a geography lesson. So Rob, if you would cue map number 1 here. Where exactly is Kakuma, Kenya? Well, I've got this handy dandy map here that shows that it is 7,500 miles, or if you are more metric-minded, 12,000 kilometers from Blacksburg, Virginia to Kakuma, Kenya. All right, slide number 2, Rob. Now, the Kakuma Refugee Camp is home to about 300,000 refugees who have fled war and persecution mostly from South Sudan, but also Somalia, Ethiopia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, and Eritrea. Okay, and you can see all of those countries kind of surrounding Kenya there. And then slide number 3. The Kakuma Refugee Camp was created in 1992 and is run by Kenya's Department of Refugee Services with technical support from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Now that's like my 101 course. That's not even a 101 course. I think you actually have to know this in order to get into the 101 class. But thankfully, we have people who actually know a lot about all of this history from Virginia Tech who are here with us tonight. And they will either correct me or they will enhance the very basic education that I've already provided for you here. Now, that's it for the maps, Rob. So that is Kakuma in a very basic form. What is Elimisha? So Elimisha is the Swahili word for educating. So we are educating Kakuma here. And to welcome the co-founders of the nonprofit Elimisha Kakuma to the stage, I want to share a short video about the Kakuma Refugee Camp.
This is Kakuma Refugee Camp, situated in the Kenya's second largest county of Turkana. It is a home to over 200,000 refugees from over 12 different nationalities. More than 70% of this population are youths and children, enrolled in only 21 primary schools, 13 pre-primary schools, and only 6 secondary schools in all the 4 camps across Kakuma. Each year, over 7,000 refugees sit for the Kenyan Secondary National Examination, and only 1% of this population makes it to the university. Dudi, Mary, and Ding are among the lucky 1% that made it to the university from Kakuma. Studying at Harvard University, St. Olaf College, and George Washington University in the US. The three, together with their teacher Didra, decided to make a difference in the percentage that goes to the university from Kakuma.
All right. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the four co-founders of Elimisha Kakuma. We have Mary Maker. We have, yep, you can applaud. We have Ding Manyang. We have Dudi Myabak, right? Okay. And we have Deirdre Hand. All right, so I had originally assigned each of them a question, but they all wanted to answer every question that I was going to ask. So we're just going to let you pass around the microphone, whoever wants to go. So my first question was, kind of, what does day-to-day life look like for those who live in Kakuma Refugee Camp?
Oh, okay. I can take this. That's a good question, which as someone who's lived there, sometimes it's not, easy to begin answering that question. So day-to-day life for most of the people is that everyone in the camp, of all the people in the camp, are not allowed to go outside Kakuma to seek other opportunities. So majority of the people, say 99%, are not allowed to work. So people find themselves wanting to occupy themselves and let time pass, because when they arrive in Kakuma, they're told that you will be here for a short period of time. And that short period of time, for someone like me when I went there, meant maybe 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. What happens is, and they put you in temporary shelters, you might have seen on the video. What happens is, that 6 months turns into a year, 2 years, and ever since the founding of Kakuma in 1992, we still have that camp right now, 33 years later. With people thinking that you are coming in and then they'll find a home for you in 6 or 10 months. And as you stay in there, you're not allowed to work, so all your basic supplies are provided by the UN. Now the food is rationed. What it means is most of the people take 1 meal a day because the food is not enough. You have to spread it out for 30 days. The water is also provided at various times. Where I lived, the tap was open 2 times. In the morning, around 6 to 7, and then in the afternoon, 2 to 3. So if you miss out on fetching your water at that time, then you're not going to drink for that day, right? There's also a curfew. You're not allowed to move at certain hours, so you can only be outside of your house around 6 or 7, and you have to be back inside around 6 or 7. I would go into the details more and more and more, but really, I don't think we have enough time here. Right. So what I would say is, this will give you a sneak peek of what life in Kakuma really look like. And thank you for joining us. In the process, we'll be painting a picture that will allow you to understand what day-to-day life looks like for those who've lived there and managed to, move from their 12,000 miles to come all the way to Blacksburg, Virginia.
Wow. So you're not allowed to leave the camp. You're not allowed to work. So once you graduate from school, how does one spend his or her time throughout the day?
First, like painting a picture of how Kakuma looks like in life, especially from a student point of view, I'm trying to see a way that all the audience that I hear will have a picture. So you can imagine, I don't even know what rural area here I can compare it to, but you can think of it when you go for camping. And so, 1, you don't have water. 2, it's not like a permanent structure that you want to go and live in it. And so that's, at least when I was growing up, classrooms were almost the same. So when you are in a classroom as a student, you will be seated, at least I was sitting on the floor, and my first pen was using my fingers to learn how to write my name as Ding. And I think that's really the structure of how most of the students go through. And so that also means out of like the classroom that you are in, it's very crowded. Maybe you have one teacher, you have 2 books, and you have to share it among 120 students. So you can see, but a lot of students, they are very passionate and they want to learn and be educated. And so they will do everything that they can to ensure that they have succeeded. But now, even when you have put in all the effort and you have given it your your very best, there are just so many limitations. You can imagine if you're not allowed to leave and you're not allowed to work, then where are you going to get the resources to be able to continue with your education? Yeah. And so that means you are at the mercy of the nonprofit or that are there to create opportunities for the students. And so if you are, let's say out of 120 students in a classroom, primary school, which is, I think, middle school year or middle school. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say 120 students in one classroom?
In one classroom.
Wow.
This is so big, I would say. Yeah, so it's like a very tiny place. And out of those students, if we imagine that 100 of them, they've succeeded, and all the scholarships that are within can only take 2 or 5 students. So that means that all the other 115 students, where they're going to go. So you can imagine probably a lot of them will try to fight and figure out how they will get the opportunities, but it just takes you to a place where you feel hopeless and a place where you don't really know what to do. But the good thing with us, we don't give up. So you'll continue fighting, and one way or the other, some organization like Elimisha Kakuma.
Yeah, so there are families that came in 1992, and there were kids that were born in 92. They've had kids in the camp, and their kids will probably have kids in the camp because they have no long-term durable solutions. So that is what happens if you really cannot find a pathway.
So I know that maybe the initial occupants of the camp were from South Sudan. Where did each of you journey from to arrive in the camp?
I think we're all from South Sudan.
all from South Sudan? Okay.
Oh, no, I don't think. We all came in from South Sudan. There's so many different demographies like within the camp, right?
Yeah.
It's 10 plus countries from DRC, Somalia, as we talked about earlier. For me, Dudi and Ding, I think we came in as children. You come into the camp and you go, especially around the border of South Sudan and Kenya, Lokichogyo, you're loaded into this big truck, taken to reception center, and then you are assigned a specific block within the camp. And as Judy talked about, you think you're going to be here temporarily, and then you stay there for 10 months, 2 years, 20 years, or like 10 years, 15 years, you're becoming a young teenager in the camp, and the pathways of you ever leaving is almost impossible. Yeah. And there's so many people are fleeing war, either from the DRC, from Sudan, Somalia, but other people are also fleeing other conflicts, political persecution, gender persecution, others religious persecution. So there's all kinds of people within the camp, and getting out of the camp is almost impossible. I want to correct something that we are allowed to work, like according to the Kenyan law does allow refugees to work. Now, getting that work permit is going to be a challenge. There was a study done by Harvard. Only 4 people have gotten work permits since 1992. And that's crazy.
Four
So
total?
Yes. In a refugee camp of close to 300,000 refugees. That is crazy. And so most of the people are like, why can't you work? Why can't you do it yourself? Like in the camp, we have people that have so many strength. When you're fleeing, your knowledge and all your other things don't just disappear. So you're still a lawyer, you're still a doctor, but then you can't practice that in this new place. And we are constantly trying to work and to be self-reliant, but it's almost impossible. Right?
Yeah. All right, so Mary Maker here, who was actually, just so you could get a sense of what scope these guys are working on internationally. Mary was invited to deliver a TED Talk a few years ago about her family's journey to the camp, and I do want to share that with you now. So Rob, take it away. think that's worthy of some applause. Yep. Have you heard that speech in a while?
No, that's why I'm like, I'm literally just going through my pages as fast as I can.
Yeah. Wow. Obviously, a difficult journey there, a difficult journey once you're in the camp. But at some point, you were able to go to university. What was like that first moment like where you left the camp and saw this world outside?
There's something about being born in a fragile community. You don't see the fragility, right? Everybody around you is going through it. So the camp is all I ever knew. And we used to dream about, leave alone university, just Nairobi, the capital. In the camp, we didn't consider it Kenya because it's semi-arid, it's 100 degrees, like you can't farm. You're always depending on hands out every month to go get food rations. And then you get to see your mighty parents become these small people, as they're lining up for, cornmeal and a bowl of soup. And you don't know anything outside of that life. So I do remember my first time leaving the camp, literally to go to Nairobi, and every child, like in Kakuma, was like, they were so jealous. Now I'm a theater kid, so I was like, oh, I got to be the leader in every game, everything. Like I think my dad had given them sweets and all of that. And I loved like the fact that we dreamt about Nairobi as this far distance thing. And I take the bus, and you get to Kitale, near Eldoret, and you can feel the breeze, and you're like, there are trees, there are valleys, there is a body of water, and there are cars, and you get into Nairobi and you see a building, and I'm like, how did they make it? We used to hear so many stories, or like watch the movies once in a while when UNHCR would like put something up, but now you're leaving it. And people would look at me and they're like, oh, poor child. But I never felt that way because in the camp, everyone is struggling, so it's a collective struggle, okay? And then in Nairobi, you're this refugee, and I went to a boarding school in Nakuru, and I was completely different. I couldn't read and write at the age of 8, while so many of my classmates could do it. There was a teacher, there was a textbook, there was all of this, and I'm like, how can you win as a refugee? There's no way you can win in the camp when the rest of the world is so far advanced. In the camp, we don't have electricity. Up to date, like less than 5% of refugees ever access electricity. So here I am in Nairobi, I'm like, there's chances of me winning here than I was in the camp, right? So later on, when I graduate high school and I go back to the camp because I can never afford college, and I'm teaching the students, they think I'm crazy because they know about the dead end within the camp, right? And when I first got into St. Olaf in Minnesota, okay, I'm like, then that little girl that was in the camp dreaming of going to Nairobi now, once again has to dream about America. And taking that plane and being welcomed and going to the Mall of America, and all the other things that you get to experience here in the United States. I think I used to pinch myself. I'm like, oh, I'm actually here. This feels nice, And I think it was a dream come true for me. I had to search where Minnesota was on the map, but I made it. And I think the same thing for Judy and Deirdre. Probably you are in D.C. and Boston. Is Harvard in Boston? It isn't. Oh, no, not Deirdre. Oh, dear Lord. Ding, you are in D.C. and Judy, you are in Boston. That's where Harvard is. Okay. Okay. Oh, Cambridge. Okay, sorry. But like, I know it was the same for you. Like being outside the camp, seeing a library full of books. I can't read, but I was like, still, this is so beautiful, and the chances of me winning are higher here than when I was in the camp. Like, tell that to a refugee girl in the camp that they can win in the camp while everything, there's layers and extra layers of uncertainties for them. How do you win? It's almost impossible. For me, it was a dream come true. And for some people, it's still a distant dream that they will never be able to achieve, right?
Beautifully said. So we have Harvard University, we have St. Olaf's, and we have George Washington University. So you make it to university. And as you just said, now your dream has come true. You could have very easily and understandably just kind of gone on with your life at that point. You could have taken the education and the degree and the job that would have come from that, and the family that might have come from that, and just lived your life at that point, enjoying the fruits of your labors. But instead, you went back and you created this nonprofit called Elimisha Kakuma to help others. Why?
Yeah. When they say places shape people, and people actually also shape places, Kakuma has been that part of our identity. I don't think I don't think I have been able to part ways with Kakuma, because it shaped who I am, my friends, and everything. Now, I work hard to get the things I want, and I thought I knew what I wanted to do with my own life. But then when I was in Kakuma, I graduated, had good grades, but couldn't get the opportunity to go to college. So I stayed out for 3 years before I could start college. So I was in college on Harvard campus. I was like exploring, eating all the food, talking with people, took some of the classes with like Nobel Prize winners, all the great people in academia and all of that, all the prospects and all of that. And so I was dreaming. But then I kept thinking back, like, why me? I didn't think I deserved it more than the next person I was with. I didn't think I was smarter than them. I didn't think I worked harder than them. So something happened that positioned me in the place that I was. So maybe I could open a pathway for these people that were like trying to find all the places they couldn't find. Because if I didn't get the opportunity I got, I would still be in the camp right now. God knows what I would be doing. And we know that every year there are more bright, intelligent, brilliant kids graduating with stellar grades, but they don't get the opportunities to go to college and make a life for them. And that was not just a feeling that I had, it was something that we shared together. So ever since we went on campus, and you had all the sea of opportunities, varieties of everything, but back in the camp, you only knew one thing, right? And not a lot to think about. So the conversation we've always had is, we got to where we are, and we were shaped to become who we are by this community. What can we do to open up opportunities, to give people hope, to give people the chance to dream, to know that you might feel stuck in this place, but really there's more out there for you, and there's just a lot of things that you have to do to get out. And these opportunities were out of reach before. And so we've always looked at, back in the camp, what can we do? And it's not just Elimisha Kakuma. I have had personal projects. Mary and Ding have also had personal projects in other areas that we do believe are areas of need in Kakuma. So it is something we started thinking about the moment we stepped foot on our campuses. It is something that we've always been thinking about, and I think we're actually thinking about it. That's why we're here. So this has been something that has driven us from day one.
And I also just want to add something to what Dudi said. I think there's also the power of being seen. I think when we were in the camp trying to figure out how do we get to the universities, we had great grades, we were doing everything that we could, but I think there was also the power in people that they were seeing how much we were trying. And so they're investing in our education. Somebody decided to come to the camp and started a piloting program, or started a scholarship that these students do deserve to get chances that every other student around the world had. I think that's always the point we always go back to. And I remember too, when we each got into our universities, the feeling, until today, I cannot describe how I felt. And so just imagining that feeling was going to end with me, I don't think it was really fair. And so even after we got into the programs that we were, that supported or like that was preparing us to come to the universities, we were always having the conversation. We left friends behind that were trying with us, but out of us, they did not get that opportunity. And you can imagine being separated from people that you were trying to get opportunities, but now there's that guilt of, I've gotten to this better place, and your friend, you grew up together, you've gone through all the struggle, they have remained behind. So we wanted to ensure that our friends also have the opportunity. And so Elimisha Kakuma, even if it's not directly impacting our own friends, it's kind of like, that ripple of passing on, so that like all other people that come after us, they are sharing that feeling of joy, of like, oh my God, I've made it, type of thing. Although, with time, you always reach a point when you're continuously improving your life. But I think that feeling, it's still there, and that's what we are doing. And we are also seeing the same thing in our student. And so it's just that continuous ripple. Yeah.
Beautifully put. Dirja, hand. Let's bring you into the conversation here. Now, you don't look like you're from the Kakuma Refugee Camp. So how did you get connected with Kakuma, Elimisha Kakuma, and maybe more importantly, what makes you care?
Thank you. So I think I'm a teacher, and so I think anyone who knows a teacher knows that you can't really be a teacher if you don't care. So I think that's where it maybe started. But
It's not for the huge salary that you command.
Yeah, I know. That's obviously why I'm in Elimisha. But I think I can point to two things in my undergraduate experience here at Virginia Tech that kind of led me to Elimisha. And one was my volunteer experience in Roanoke with resettled refugees from Somalia and tutoring and teaching English. I never wanted to be a teacher, and here I am. And it led me into my career, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages, and which led me abroad to many different countries and in the public schools here as well. And the second thing is that I took a history of the Mau Mau Rebellion class from Professor Brett Shadle, who you will meet soon.
Who will meet, yes.
And he later, a couple of years later, actually connected me with Kakuma Refugee Camp when I was kind of thinking I'd like to go abroad again. And he connected me there, and I did an internship at Jesuit Worldwide Learning, working with students who were in the same position that Mary, Ding, and Duty were in, kind of stuck, but also looking and searching. And so when I then the following year accepted a job in Rwanda in a similar preparatory course, program, words, I met my first students, Ding and Duty, my first of these three. And then in the second year, Mary joined. So they were in the first cohort I taught, and Mary was in the third. So I was their teacher, and that's kind of where it all began. And I think the fact that I had been in Kakuma kind of just formed a connection with among us anyway. And so we would jokingly talk about, we'll start this same program in Kakuma Refugee Camp. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And, we move on with our lives. I moved to Guatemala. I moved back to DC, taught in the public schools, but we were always in touch. I was actually with Mary at her TED Talk. She brought me on as her chaperone. Anyway, when this program that they had been in then stopped taking students from Kakuma, we were like, all right, it's time, y'all, we got to do it. And we got on Zoom. It was the height of pandemic. Duty was even in Kakuma when we started. He went back. And yeah, that's, I think, how it all began. But I guess the why do I care what made me care is just that I think we all can feel very helpless. I think especially now, like it's hard to see so much injustice and not know what to do with it. And so for me, what tool do I have is teaching, it's education. And I think you kind of just find what your tool is and you do it. There's no reason why certain people that I was, as Mary says in her TED Talk, I didn't do anything to be born where I was born, to be born into the family I was born into. And so it's just not. So I think it's ultimately like, it's just the right thing to do is it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. Well, thank you. Tell us about your students. I mean, obviously you've got
Right.
3 of them here.
Well,
but
yeah, let's start with these 3, the best students I've ever had. Sorry to anyone watching, just kidding. But yeah, so these 3 set the bar high. But yeah, our Elimisha students are amazing. I think we have right now, y'all can help me with the numbers, I think we have 47 students who are either in university right now or about to matriculate in the fall. And they are studying in, or going to study in the US, Canada, England, Scotland, Costa Rica, Czech Republic, and Kenya. I think I got them all. And then we have 16 in our current cohort so this is our 5th cohort, 16 students who are currently in Kakuma in this 16-month gap year program that we really focus not on just getting into university, but being successful once you're there because, and the prep is a lot. And so I think 2 things that stand out about our students is one, that academically they are top, right? To even get to secondary school is a huge feat. To finish secondary school with high grades, high enough grades to get into a U.S. university, it's a small percentage. However, it's small compared, but it's still a large group that we have to recruit from and then cut people. Unfortunately, there's not enough bandwidth amongst us. But all of these students so what I guess I would come to next is that these students, I think 2 examples of the students I would really kind of highlight, because the other point, was community service. They're really, when we recruit students, their commitment to community service is what's really important, kind of following in the model of the 3 of them. I think that highlights. And 2 of the students who I just want to kind of highlight, one would be a student named Makan who studies at the University of Calgary in Canada. She founded an organization called Kakuma Mentorship Program that has served over 500 students, helping students in finish primary and get to secondary, because that's also a huge feat, in fact, and they do tutoring and mentoring. And then another student, McCall, who studies at McAllister College, and he came back to Kakuma last summer and did a digital computer literacy course for over 100 students across Kakuma, and those students, a handful of those students have helped us launch our programming at the Tech Hub, which is a program we started on the side of the Elimisha program it's a community resource hub where people from the community in Kakuma can come and access computer literacy, can access courses, can do different programming. And so those students have then, so this kind of, as Ding was talking about, this ripple just keeps rippling.
Yeah. What are your hopes, dreams for the future of Elimisha Kakuma? I mean, besides, I guess, helping more. I mean, is there a bigger picture or another picture that you're...
I think if I were to think of a perfect world, is that we want to be in a place where we wouldn't have to do this. Because...
I think that's the story of every nonprofit. Right?
Yes. But if we go into the specifics, so we do recruitment in around January, February to April. And this is a great moment because then we get to learn about a lot of our students. But that is also the part where I feel like I never want to do this again, because I get to decide or be a part of the team that decides the 15, 16 students that get to make it out of the 150, 200 students who have the qualifications. So who am I to be the decider? I mean, I read a little bit of philosophy. It seems like playing God. I do not want that. So if there's anything that I would want to see more, it is that Elimisha Kakuma has the capacity to have, to take in as many students as possible, and we can place them in the schools. But also the other thing we're thinking about isn't just schools, because it's not everyone that should go to school or wants to go to schools. There are a lot of ways that people can contribute to. So I would wish that we're at a capacity where we can not just give people opportunities, but also nurture talent, because these are talented people who want to contribute to their communities and will create more value.
Yeah, it seems like the Kakuma Refugee Camp is just this wealth of untapped potential that could really transform the world if we were able to build some bigger, stronger connections, right? How, I mean, what's something that we gathered here who are tuning in online, what's something that we can do to help your work?
I'm always like 3 things. The first one, like, we are constantly looking for universities. So if you can connect us to a university, Virginia Tech is already on our roster. If you can connect us to a university, our students need placement into universities on full scholarship because we're refugees. I don't even have a bicycle. Okay, I didn't by that time. And then the other part is like always donate. As a nonprofit, like we're always fundraising. We are always like seeking to kind of like get to that place where we are able to be stable. So if you're rich, come locate us. Or like if you have anything small, like small donations really go a long way. I feel like 100% of our donations go to our students. It's not something I should be proud of because there's no donations to fuel this work that we do so much. So your donations go a long way. And then the third thing, I love connectors. So connect us to connectors that will connect us to either universities or to money. I think that will really help us continue growing. In the last 4 years, this is our 5th year, we've had 100% success rate. And for us to continue doing this work in the community, your support really means a lot. So I think that's why I'm always channeling people, follow us on our website, like on our LinkedIn, on our Instagram, or all of that, and really get to understand refugees deeper. And I love doing the analogy of the fish, where like if you go to the sea, there was this little girl goes to the sea, takes a starfish and throws it in the water. And then the entire village came out, took a starfish and threw it into the water. The starfish knew its way home. I love that analogy because most of refugees know how to find their way home. It's that little lift, into the water. I think is what we're looking for at Elimisha.
I love your comment about connections because I feel certain that if you guys get connected to somebody, you're going to sell the program and they're going to be contributors. You just got to make that connection. So beautiful. Well, please join me in thanking the 4 co-founders of Elimisha Kakuma, Mary Maker, Ding Manyang, Dudi Binyabak, and Deirdre Hand. So, stay here for 1 second. Y'all can stay here. Yeah. So now, for those of you who have watched our show, Buzz Live, you know that we do like to feature a musical guest on our show. Now, I could not talk any of these guys to provide that musical guest talent, but the logistics of actually bringing a musical band or group from the Kakuma Refugee Camp was a little too challenging for us, but we did find a YouTube video featuring a montage of Kakuma refugees performing from the camp. So all these different musical acts and genres are represented here, which we hope not only educates you more about the conditions there at the camp, but also inspires you to celebrate these amazing individuals who have overcome so much to still create beautiful music. So, Rob.
You little boy kiss, genius.
A sounds.
You my woman thing, girl. You a fantastic girl. You a romantic girl. Hey, you annex me play, you're cute. Little mama show me what them sorry ass got. Them all shaking the put it to the top. The king size, juicy butts, cause you got a hit.
Just to go. Never. What you gonna do? If a family starving on the street without no hope, it's never dope. Never. Change your ego, bro. Leave these guys, just be nice. Everything be good, man. Hallelujah in my neighborhood.
Every single day, where the families are sleeping out on the street light. Here I am, for their sake, screaming out loud, feeling traumatized every time I see them all up.
makanga liboso liboso bangula nyonso Yahweh Yahweh Yome makanga liboso liboso bangula nyonso Yahweh Yahweh
All right. They can't hear our applause, but I hope that if you happen to cross paths with any of those musical guests, that y'all will let them know that we very much appreciated their work. All right, please join me in welcoming to the stage here David Clubb and Nicole Branch, who are in many ways responsible for all of us being here tonight because they are providing the general support from the Cranwell Family Foundation. So let's give it up. All right, so I would like to start off by, first of all, thanking you for supporting us, being able to support Elimisha Kakuma here, not only with this show, but also with the Buzz episode that we're going to start production on tomorrow. Actually, now that we have all these folks here for a limited time, we want to capture them on camera. But how did you, well, first of all, David, start off by telling us about the Cranwell Family Foundation.
Sure, yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So the Cranwell family has been very generous philanthropic givers for a long time, decades. And in fact, here at Virginia Tech, and going back to 1986, they gave their house to the university to house the Cranwell International Center. So if you don't know, there's the Cranwell International Center here at Virginia Tech, serves all the international students at Virginia Tech, which give or take, there's roughly 4,000 international students at Virginia Tech from over 120 countries. And then probably around 2013, kind of formalized things at the time into what was called the Bill and Ellen Cranwell Charitable Trust. And then fast forward 2023, we kind of evolved into then calling it the Cranwell Foundation. And then here today, the past couple of years, we've been through a process, and it's finally evolved into the Cranwell Family Foundation. And a big part of that name change was really to put family at the center of everything that's going on, because Bill and Ellen, kind of their shared vision started the foundation, but it's going to be the family who's going to perpetuate that in perpetuity. So the foundation kind of didn't have this formally at the beginning, but the tagline we have is kind of locally grounded, globally minded. So you'll see kind of how that connects here, right? So and so we're really all about what we say, unlocking opportunities and unleashing potential. And hopefully that'll ring a bell when you're seeing everything that we talk about today. So yeah, so we were happy to support this event, and I'm sure we'll talk in a minute about how we got connected with Elimisha Kakuma.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of the family foundation, of Cranwell Family Foundation, Nicole, perhaps you could share a little bit about your connection with the family and kind of what, not only that, but what inspires you to continue being part of this work?
Yeah, so I am the oldest granddaughter of Bill Cranwell and Bill and Ellen Cranwell. So, you know, I'm the lucky one that's gotten to spend the most time in my generation with my grandfather and Ellen. And so it's, you know, an honor to be able to kind of continue his vision, and Ellen does maybe even more than my grandfather does at this point with the foundation.
Being recorded.
But yeah, they're just wonderful people who are generous and love and are interested in people and wanting to support things both here and around the world. So I'm honored that I get to be a part of that.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here and all the work that you do. How did y'all get connected with Elimisha Kakuma?
Before I do that, by the way, I forgot to tell you. So when we changed our name, we had to change a lot of shirts and stuff and our logo. So I brought Michael a shirt, which has our logo on the front, but then on the back, more importantly, it has all the partners that work together.
Oh, how lovely.
In Kakuma, so that's for you.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
And so this will kind of segue into how we got involved with Elimisha Kakuma. We took a lot of these shirts to the camp a year ago. So to make a long story as short as I hopefully can, before becoming the executive director of the Cranwell Family Foundation, a little over 2 years ago, I was a faculty member at Virginia Tech and actually was the director of the Cranwell International Center. And in 2020, I think it was, the Center for Refugee, Migrant, and Displacement Studies launched. And so I kind of got to know them a little bit, and at that time, kind of knew a little bit about them. I was still at Virginia Tech, and then Russia invaded Ukraine, and long story short, the Cranwell family contributed some money to support a displaced Ukrainian refugee, essentially, a displaced person from Ukraine, who came to Virginia Tech as a displaced scholar. So that kind of got us a little bit into this area. And then fast forward a few years when I had left Virginia Tech 2 years ago, a lot was happening in the refugee space in terms of a program that the State Department started called Welcome Corps on campus, to have a pathway from refugee camps to universities in the United States. And I guess I connected with, at the time, Katie Powell, who's the director, and they were trying to become part of the inaugural cohort of Welcome Corps on campus schools, and they needed some funding. And I went to the board and Bill Nell said, hey, this is something we need to get on board with because of just our values and ethos. And so, long story short, we helped with that. And then before we knew it, Nicole and myself and Jody Ireland, who is
My aunt.
yes, thank you. Thank you. It's a big family. One of Bill's daughters. We went to Kakuma in April of 2024, and I think that changed everything when we were on the ground there and just saw what was happening. And so we met people, and so from there we started providing some support for Elimisha, and even today we do, and we'll talk later, but I do hope people who are watching or here will donate to Elimisha. We are actually matching some donations up to a total of $25,000, so if you give some money, we're going to double it. But that's kind of how we got connected with Elimisha Kakuma. Did I miss anything? Is that good?
I think you got it.
Good.
You've been to the camp as well?
Yes. Yeah, when I found out David was going, I kind of invited myself.
Which was great.
And Brett and Deirdre, I think, were like, okay, well, sure, come on. Yeah, and so, we did a lot of talking about, maybe what it would be like when we got there and how we wanted to, present ourselves and how we wanted to interact with people that we met. And I got to meet Mary, Ding, and Duty beforehand, which was nice to be able to, get their perspectives and hear, what they wanted me to learn, what questions I should ask. And so, yes, I got to go.
I'm going off script here, but was there one thing in particular that you took away, having learned about the people who were in the camp, that kind of has stayed with you? I'm sure there's probably a whole list of things, but if there's one particularly, like if someone who hasn't been to the camp went, but you said, well, what's it like there? Or what are the people like there?
And they're people just like you and I.
Yeah.
People with dreams, people who, just want to live life and experience all of the emotions and, just like you and me. But I was, particularly struck by what they shared, by what the students shared, and by what they wanted to do, both, outside of the camp, but also, they all talked about what they would do for people like them in their circumstances once they had the opportunity to do something different.
And that's really it, isn't it? I mean, they have the dreams, they have the capabilities, they have the aspirations, the work ethic. They have all of it. They just need opportunity.
Yeah, a way out.
A way out.
And education is one of the best ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll just add the same thing. I think I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I'd been to lots of places around the world that were difficult places, but I think to echo what Nicole said, I think it was just the people. I mean, just the connections that you made. The students, particularly in Elimisha Kakuma, I mean, they were just so concerned almost more about us than we were about them, and just sharing. They're just brilliant, and it just was. It wasn't really surprising, but it was just encouraging to see. The hope that they had, to be honest with you. I mean, they still had dreams. They still had hope. They were ready to rock and roll. And so I was really impressed with that. And the final point, really what I took away from that trip is how important education is. And I think sometimes we can take that for granted here. It's not just something to hang on your wall. This is a way out. And I think really it's the linchpin to everything. I won't get too far off script, but when you think about all that's going on in the world, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, if you're familiar with those, 17 goals, zero poverty, clean water, quality education is one of those. It's number 4. I would say that's the foundation upon which all of them rise or fall. If you cannot access education, how are we going to have clean water? How are we going to alleviate poverty? So I think when you give folks in a place like Kakuma access to education, you're giving them access to be global contributors to all of these challenges. And the thing I'd say is they're ready for it. We just need to give them the opportunity. So that's what I'd say.
Well said. Well said. Yep. What's your vision on behalf of the Cranwell Family Foundation to enhance the work of Elimisha Kakuma, moving forward?
I think one of the things that's so wonderful about Elimisha Kakuma is that it is refugee-led. So it's, the people that know what it's like to live there and know what it's like to go through what other people are going through there. And so me personally, I don't have that vision, right? I look to the founders, I look to Brett. What do you need? What can I help with?
They already have the leadership. They just need the resources.
Yeah, it's not up to me
happen.
or the foundation to tell anyone that. So we're just looking to support.
Yeah. I would just add, one of the things about our foundation is that we say that, it's not the splash, it's the ripple. We really are concerned about the long game. So our hope is that we come alongside of them over the long term to do exactly what kind of Duty and others just set up here to help give them the resources they need to continue doing what they're already doing, which is really transforming generations, to be honest with you, with this. So we're in it for the long haul. So that's, we don't, like Nicole said, we don't have a particular plan. You have the plan, and we're happy to give our 2 cents, but I think it is really important to us that it is a refugee-led organization. And we've learned a lot about these terminologies, and we've learned a lot over the past 2 years about the refugee space in general, but being a refugee-led organization, an RLO, I think that's what that is really important to us because, again, locally grounded, globally minded is applicable in lots of contexts. So when I say globally minded in this context, locally grounded, it's locally grounded there in Kenya, not locally grounded here necessarily. It's there. So we love that about them. So we're happy to keep supporting them, and we invite others to come along with us and do that. So
Beautifully said. So David Clubb and Nicole Branch with Cranwell Family Foundation, thank you so much for being here tonight and all you're doing to support Elimisha Kakuma.
Thank you.
Now, while Elimisha Kakuma students are literally all over the world, it's the partnership that has been forged at Virginia Tech that brings us here tonight. And so to welcome our final guest, I want to watch one more video produced by Virginia Tech, I better give them credit for this, right? About the university's Center for Refugee, Migrant, and Displacement Studies and the Elimisha Kakuma students who are here currently. Rob.
Walking onto a college campus for the first time is a dream come true for many. For Ajir and Jan Lueth, it's even more.
The only time that I actually felt it was the first day of class when I was walking in the drill field with my bag on and everyone had bags on. I was like, oh, it's happening.
Arriving from Northwest Kenya to Virginia Tech's Blacksburg campus, the experience is surreal. Virginia Tech's impact reaches beyond campus. Through the Center for Refugee, Migrant, and Displacement Studies, professors and students connect with young minds across the globe, specifically in Kakuma Refugee Camp.
It's an incredible program because it's incredible individuals who started it.
Virginia Tech alum Deirdre Hand and 3 of her former students, all from South Sudan, grew up in the camp where many students get outstanding grades, but face extreme limitations after high school.
Refugees can't work, they can't travel freely, they can't apply for loans and scholarships from the government. So going to school in Kenya was a non-starter for higher education.
That's when the 4 founded Elimisha Kakuma to help high-achieving students prepare and navigate the complex path to higher education in the U.S. and other countries through instruction and support. For Ajir and Jan Lueth, education is more than a personal achievement. It's a way to give back.
I was looking to major in entrepreneurship, innovation, technology management, which will help me help others come up with business plans, become business owners, especially women, so that they can be able to depend on themselves.
For me, it's foster international trade and investment in camps using economics and being able to address refugee crisis.
Virginia Tech's dedication to fostering global education is making dreams a reality, one student, one community at a time.
All right, please join me in welcoming Brett Shadle, Professor of African History here at Virginia Tech and the Director of the Center for Refugee, Migrant, and Displacement Studies, as well as Annika Brennan, who is the Program Manager for Elimisha Kakuma. All right, first of all, I've got to ask Brett, how was my African history geography lesson at the start? Was I even remotely correct?
It was not inaccurate.
Fair enough, I'll take it. All right, how did each of you get involved with this particular mission, or might even call it a ministry, that you're providing to the Kakuma Refugee Camp?
So as Deirdre said, she had been my student a few years back, very memorable student. So around 2020, I think as David was saying, we had just created the Center for Refugee, Migrant, and Displacement Studies here at Tech. And the next year I saw, I'd stayed in touch with Deirdre, and she was announcing the foundation of Elimisha Kakuma, and got back in touch. And the more I learned about it, so I learned about the three of them co-founding, which was really important, as David and Nicole were saying. There's a long history of outsiders coming into refugee camps and saying, here's what you need to do, or here's what you need and how to accomplish it. And the fact that it was Judy, Mary, and Ding who were the co-founders and the visionaries was really important as something that I thought this was something that I could be involved in. And I also had I've been researching Kenyan history and refugee history for many years, had been to Kakuma, and I'm in higher education. So I felt there was something that I could bring to the organization. And they were kind enough to let me be part and bring me in.
Were you kind of like me, giving an African history lesson, and there you are coming to them, and they're the experts,
They
right?
are the experts, absolutely.
Right. Nice. And how about you, Annika?
So I got started when I was a freshman in university. I was at Macalester College when Mary was at St. Olaf. And when Elimisha first got started, probably a couple weeks after it got started, I first started volunteering as a tutor. So I was tutoring like all 12 students in the cohort. It was kind of mayhem. We were doing like 10-minute pieces every single morning at like sunrise. It was an experience. And I think kind of like what Deirdre was saying earlier, I think is probably most teachers would end up saying, is that it was really just the students and the stories. I think that first year, for me, it was seeing students spend so long. Like I was a writing tutor. So my whole job was to say, what do you think? What do you believe? What do you want? Let's write it out. Tell me more, give me more details, why? And I think spending that first year asking all of those questions, putting it all in writing, and then seeing students go to university and do those things that had just been stories and writing was, I don't know, it was just a very hopeful thing at the time, in the midst of COVID when the world was just mayhem. And then after that, I just got hooked and addicted, and then I stayed doing a bunch of different things, and I just moved out to Kenya a year ago to be the program manager, I spent a bunch of time in the camp and a bunch of time in Nairobi. Yeah.
Well, so what does a day-to-day experience look like for you on the ground in Kenya?
Yeah, so Students' Day starts many hours before they actually arrive at the center. So as Judy was saying earlier, I think many students are up at 5, 6 a.m. fetching water, doing a lot of different family chores that are necessary, looking after siblings, cooking, any sort of things that are required by families and communities in order to meet survival needs. And then they'll arrive at the center. So students have to be there by 8 a.m. They all arrive in boda-bodas and motorcycles that are paid for by Elimisha, so they all arrive. At 8, we all have breakfast together. We have mandazi and tea, and classes will start by 8:30. At Elimisha, I think one of the things that's really important to us is that that we meet the things that students are unable to have provided for them. So we understand that the UNHCR rations are not enough for students to be able to attend classes for 9 hours a day and perform their best. And so students' lunch and students' breakfast, as well as their transport and a monthly stipend is provided for them. And we think that that's really important in order to understand that this is treated like their job, right? That for the year that they're in Elimisha, this can be their #1 priority. Most students are the family's primary earners, and without these kinds of things would be unable to do a program like this. And so I think what's really important is that you're able to meet students with where they are at and what they need in order to make this opportunity feasible. So at 8:30, we start classes, and we'll be in class from 8:30 until 5 every day. It's a long day. It's a hot day. The center is hot and steamy. I'm trying to think of a better word than sweaty. It's 100 degrees, and there's a lot of people in a small room, but also a lot of energy and a lot of ambition. So I think it's just there's a lot of energy in that room in many different ways. So the kinds of classes that students are in really depends over the course of the year. As Deirdre was saying, I think when we think about university access, what's really important to us as an organization is not just that students are able to get to university, right? That's the first step and a big barrier to begin with. But after that, it's how do we set up students so that they can have long-term success, both for themselves and also for their communities. And so we structure our academic programming in order to meet both of those goals. So our academic programming is divided up into 4 terms, half of which do this college access piece, and half of which do the long-term success. In the long-term success, we're really thinking about what are the skills that students need, especially coming to school in the US and Canada and the UK. So a lot of writing, a lot of critical thinking, a lot of these same questions. What do you think, what do you believe, why, and how do you back it up? And then I think the college access piece, a lot of how I think about my role in Elimisha is about translation, right? How do you make universities understand the context of students' lives, and how do you have students understand the context of universities? And that I think without this crucial translation piece, universities can want students, but their academic requirements are not set up for this kind of student profile, right? And so they might want refugee students, but if they don't have that context of the camp explained, there's no way that students are going to be able to pass those barriers. And I think in the same way, as everyone was saying, students in Kakuma are hungry for education, but without pathways to funnel that, I think it ends up becoming lost and turning into lots of other different things. And so I think, a lot of thinking about college counseling as a translation role.
Bravo, yeah. So Brett, what are you doing for Elimisha Kakuma?
Thanks, Annika, for the setup. That's great. A lot of it is whatever the co-founders tell me to do. A lot of emails, a lot of WhatsApps.
That's a good call.
It is, yeah. It varies by the time of the year. So right now I'm teaching a 7-week class via Zoom on Kenyan history for the students. And it's doing, as Annika was saying, a lot of the school that they have in Kenya is a lot of rote memorization. So we're working a lot on critical reading, critical writing, discussion. And I think there may be some students in Kakuma right now watching, but they also have class early tomorrow, so they shouldn't be watching. So I hope they can watch on a recording. So I do teaching. I also teach the last several years a course in the spring where I've had Virginia Tech students take a class, and then the Elimisha Kakuma students Zoom in, and they take the class along with the Virginia Tech students. And I think that's been really helpful on both sides. It gives the Elimisha Kakuma students a sense of what a college classroom is like. And it's good for that. And I see one of our Virginia Tech students was here somewhere. There she is, who was in the class this last spring, and got to learn a lot from the Elimisha students as well, about their lives and their experiences. So summer and spring, there's teaching. In the fall is college application process and working with them, brainstorming, reading their college essays. And I would say they share a lot, right? They have to tell their stories, and I would say that's one of the difficult things is trying to tell their stories without exposing themselves too much or like playing up the poor, downtrodden refugee, but telling their stories the way that they want to tell them.
I would imagine, those personal essays, you know, the high school graduates from the States are all really trying to struggle with what that personal essay might look like, you know, and I mean, in some ways, their stories write themselves, I would think.
It is. I mean, they've all got so many things that they've done, and especially the students that we recruit have given so much back to the communities already. You know, they've created clubs in high schools to peace clubs, to women's rights. They are involved in organizations in camp around sexual and reproductive health, environmental causes. They all have taught in schools. They've mentored students in their free time. So their college essays are incredible. But I think also, as Annika was saying, is being able to make colleges understand what their story is and doing it in a way that respects the dignity of our students. We don't want them to be the poor, helpless refugee that you have to give a handout to. Right. But we want the schools to know them as the powerful individuals, as you've seen the three here, that they really are. So the college application, that's several months. Spring is about 2 months of admissions for the next cohort. I think this year we did 5 stages of the admission process, essays, interviews. And that, I think this is one of the things that Dudu was mentioning before. It's really, really difficult. We had 500 people apply this year, and we admitted 16. We had planned to admit 15, I think, and we always bump it at the last minute. But any of those 500, if they were born in the U.S., they would be in school. They would have already been in school. You know, many of them have been out of school for several years searching for an opportunity. So it's incredibly difficult. I mean, we love the students. You know, they had a picture before of some of the students, and we love them, and they're incredible, but there are hundreds and thousands more out there. So it's a long process of selecting the ones that will attend. And then the past couple of years, I've also been able to go to Kakuma for the first week to introduce the new cohort, meet them. This year, Annika and I were together, do a lot of kind of team building, get to know them, lay out the expectations.
Beautiful. So, all right, so you're, he deserves some applause too, yeah. Thank you. So you mentioned the cohort. So where are Kakuma students heading off to in the fall?
Yes, so we had another year of 100% success. So there's 19 students starting this year who are attending 16 institutions. Here's the memory moment. Northwestern, McAllister, St. Olaf, Brandeis, Bennington, Elmhurst, Virginia Tech, Berkeley, Edinburgh, Exeter, Winchester, Earth University, Toronto, McGill, Guelph University, and there's one more that isn't coming. Maybe I miscounted, but that's, I think, most of them.
Wow, bravo.
But a lot,
Bravo.
yeah.
And on scholarship.
And all fully funded.
Yeah.
Which I think one thing we say a lot at Elimisha to students during this period where things are really, really intense is that no one succeeds until everyone succeeds. And I think one thing that really struck me this year at our graduation was looking at like the whole cohort of students and being like, this is success in every way that we've defined it out over the course of the year, right? It's like every single student is able to take this opportunity and do it fully funded. And that is like how we've always defined success at Elimisha, which I think is really important.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's obvious. Yep, you can go ahead. That's fine. Well, it's obvious the impact that Elimisha Kakuma, Virginia Tech, Cranwell Family Foundation is having on the lives of the refugees from Kakuma. What experience or what impacts have they had on you?
No, it's I think it's only been 2.5 years maybe since we've all like been together first in the same room, and we've been working together for a while. But it seems a lot longer, you know, that being able to work with these four, being able to, and Annika, being able to work with the students and getting to know the 47 students who have gone through the program and the 16 that are in now. Really just, I mean, the level of what they've been willing to do. And David, I think it was David maybe, said this before. Somebody said it before tonight. So the 4 of them were freshmen in college, sophomores, and teaching in a DC public school when they decided to create this organization during a pandemic. When I was a freshman or sophomore in college, I was not starting an NGO on the other side of the world. And the thousands of hours of time that they dedicate to this organization over the years, it's 7-hour difference right now between Blacksburg and Kenya. In Minnesota, in the winter, it's 9 hours. So, you know, people are waking up at 5, 6, 7 a.m. to teach classes via Zoom in Kenya, while they were adjusting to life in the US, adjusting to life in Minnesota or DC or the cold of Cambridge. And while they were trying to be students or earn a living teaching middle schoolers, which is a whole other struggle, and make lives, and then continue, like, you know, trying to go through grad school. Duty just finished his master's here at Virginia Tech. All right. You know, and trying to live their own lives, but spending so many hours just to help others because they had gone through it. And I think, and as you were saying, nobody would have blamed them to say, I made it to college, now it's my time to do what I want. But they don't. And that's been, I mean, that's one of the impact, Annika will talk more about the students, and I'm going to agree with everything that she says. But no, from the co-founders, the amount of time and energy and passion they put into it has really affected me.
Nice. Annika?
Mine is like the sappier version, maybe.
That was sappy for me.
I know. I think that, so one of the first students I worked with when I first started tutoring, when I went to the camp the first time, he had a lot of young boys who he had come stay with him. He arrived in the camp also by himself without parents or family, and a lot of young boys who also came to the camp by themselves would come and live with him. And I think there was 13 kids who were living with him at the time. And every Saturday, he would run tutoring from like 9 in the morning until like 4 p.m. It was like an Elimisha day. Just like tutoring there. And so on Saturdays, I would go with him and we'd tutor together these young students. And at the end of every day, I remember what he would say to everyone is he'd say, everything you learn, go and teach 2 people. And I think that that's something that we see a lot with all of the Elimisha students and with the co-founders too, right? That like every time you have an opportunity, the first thing you do is look back and see how that ripples out, right? It's the ripple effect that I think everyone has been talking about all day. And I think that witnessing that has just really changed looking at the world. I don't think it's any bigger than that. Like, I think it's one of those things that when you see, you're like, oh, like duh. So yeah, I think that ripple effect. And something that we see, as Deirdre was pointing out with the students that graduated, right? There was just another student, our student at Earth University, just got grant funding to come back to Kakuma this January, right? To run an agricultural program that looks at like agricultural businesses and women who are in agriculture in Kakuma. So I think it's this kind of thing, right? That a professor in university said to me once that knowledge is the only resource in the world that the more you share it, the bigger it grows. And I think that seeing this ripple has taught me a lot about abundance in a very different way.
Very nice. Yes, yes. All right, well, Annika Brennan and Brett Shadle, thank you all so much for all the work that you do. Virginia Tech, Kakuma, Elimisha Kakuma. I look forward to seeing all of our guests tomorrow morning as we start production on our Buzz TV episode that will, again, highlight even in a more profound way, I think, the great work that you guys are doing. So I would encourage everyone tuning in here on our live stream to figure out a way to support everyone here. Go to elimishakakuma.org. Just start typing Elimisha and it'll pop up. You don't need to necessarily know how to spell it. Go to Cranwell Family Foundation, much easier to spell, and figure out a way to get engaged with the incredible work that they are doing. And in the meantime, keep being a buzz for good in the community you hold dear, and we'll see you back here next time. Thank you all so much.